Hey team, just a quick video on squatting and glute activation. Had a few people come to me with a bit of a problem, which I'll show you soon. So we're going to go over recognizing it and then the 3 steps to correcting it and making your squat better. I'm not a biomechanist, I'm not a professional squat extraordinaire, but I got a rough idea, and so yeah, take a look at this and hopefully you gain something out of it. So this is the problem we are trying to fix. If you ever see this happening. Or something like this. It can be also accompanied with this. So like I said, I'm not a biomechanist, but it makes sense to me that we've got the knees extending, but we don't have the hips extending. So what I mean by that is, from the bottom of the squat, the knees are extending, but the hips aren't extending with it, okay? So I think it shows a lack of that posterior chain being active, the glutes, the glutes being active to open those hips up. So we're gonna go over some drills to activate the glutes, and then gradually introduce squatting with those nice active glutes. So the first thing is we just want to get a feel for the glutes, make sure we can make them work. And that can start with squeezing your butt. Literally, just squeezing your butt, feeling for it. I also practice it from a sitting position, which will look like this. And you should just look for that little rise and fall of the head. You can put your fingers just under each cheek, and again, squeeze, feel them activate, and relax. The thing with that is as well, you can also feel the other muscles in your leg, and you can just try and even get down to being as controlled as squeezing one glute without the other activating, and just get as much control as you can. Once you know where your glutes are, and you can feel them working, you can then transition it into more complex movements. And we'll just go over a few that make sense. Here's the first one. I'm sure you've all seen it before, but banded walking is excellent. Even for people that can't really find their glutes, they'll soon find them doing this. Pretty simply, band around the knees. Okay, so you're just inside your squat stance. Come into a slight squat and simply walk under control. Okay, you can walk around the whole gym, backwards and forwards, and what we're looking for is a neutral spine. So we don't want this, we don't want that lordosis. Neutral spine, step, control, step, control. And it won't take long before the glutes start burning. Another exercise again to get that hip extension working is to grab yourself a bench, lay over it, and again, simply just extend, and you can even put a hand on there, make sure the glute's working, and bring it down. Again, these are all just progressions towards getting the glute firing in the squat. Next up, is the hip thrust, and again it's just slightly more complicated than the last. You can do it unloaded, but we've got a barbell sitting in the hips here, and it's simply squeezing of the glutes at the top and lowering back down. Again, what we want to watch for is the back, okay, and the spine. We don't want to have this lordotic position. We want a nice neutral spine, and then extend the hips. Again, as we come down, we don't want to lose our lumbar curve. We want to hold it and make sure the glutes are doing all the work. Once we've got these movements happening, and you can do hip thrusts comfortably, and the next day you get a bit of DOMS in your glutes and not so much the hamstrings, because some people rely on the hamstrings or keep the tension in the hamstrings. Once you've done that, you can start progressing to the squatting movements. The first squatting movement I would suggest is a goblet squat. Okay, it's easy to control. It brings the load to the front of the body, so it forces the posterior to do a bit of work. So I'm going to demonstrate a goblet squat and point out a few things to look out for. From the front, from the other side, and from the rear. So things to look out for with the goblet squat. We can make it nice and slow, okay? From that very deep bottom position, we want to keep the chest up, and we want to imagine that we've got a bit of string on our head, and our head is being pulled up to the roof, okay? So from here, head comes up first, head comes up first, head comes up first. If we get this movement happening, no good, okay? We don't want it, we want the hips and the knees to start opening at the same time. And you might need to do it in front of a mirror, or you might need to video it, but that's the goal. Here would be a bad example. Okay, and here's another bad example. We just want everything moving together. I don't even know if that made sense, but hopefully it helps some of you. If you've got that little butt coming out of the squat, the stripper we call it, if that's happening, start addressing the glutes, start getting them firing, and then start introducing more complicated movements. The ultimate goal is that goblet squat. Once you can goblet squat well, and you've got control, the hips and knees opening at the same time, boom, you're away, and everything else is going to progress from there. If you've got any questions, just write in the comment section below.